Hi, this is Tyrene Martinson with The Truth About Storytelling. And I don't know about you, but I've had a bit of a roller coaster week. My cat went missing for about 24 hours, and a bunch of people came forward and helped and shared posts that I had posted. And I put out flyers, and my neighbors were really nice to me. And she came back. So I don't know if she was like stuck in someone's barn or garage because I didn't get a chance to talk to all my neighbors. I dropped off flyers at everybody's houses, even if they couldn't answer the door. So anyway, she came back muddy and terrified. However, that terror didn't last very long. She didn't want to go outside yesterday, but this morning at 4:30 a.m., when one of my daughters had to leave for work, that's when she decided to escape again. That was also, I was kind of upset at her. But at the same time, when your cat comes back, and she came back at 7 o'clock this morning, when your cat comes back, you just have to praise them, right? You're like, yay, you came back, good kitty. And now she's on, lockdown again inside the house. So I know she won't be happy, but I did buy her a new vest type harness, and I put it on her yesterday for the first time, and she did okay with it. So what I'm thinking about doing is training her to be an adventure kitty. And I kind of want to do that before. It is not like anything I've ever done before, but I have trained cats to come and sit and to do a few other things. So I know it's possible to train a cat. I know people out there like, it's not possible to train a cat. It actually is possible to train a cat. It just takes a lot of patience and paying attention to what their routines are, because they really like routines. And they're not as independent as people think they are. They're not likely to come up and like, oh, yes, please, I want to get petted like a dog. Like dogs usually always want to please people, but cats don't seem to want to please people, but they really do like routines. And so I have to figure out how to work in that the vest training for her, and then figure out if I can actually get her to walk on a leash. And because I do want her to be able to go outside. I think going outside is healthy for all of us. It's healthy for people. I think it's healthy for cats and dogs. And I've always had outdoor cats because of that, because I know that our outdoor cats have always lived fairly long, healthy lives. They've lived till they were 16 or 17 or 18 or 19. And I don't know and I've never met anyone who had an indoor cat that lived that long. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe indoor cats are like super healthy. But again, I've always had super healthy outdoor cats. And so it's hard for me to keep her indoors, but I do know that we have a lot of coyotes, and we've got sometimes there are cougar sightings, and sometimes there are bear sightings. I've never seen a bear or a cougar in my neighborhood, but supposedly other people see them. And one time I smelled something that I thought smelled maybe like a bear, because they do stink really bad, and particularly in a particular way. They're not the same smell as like a smelly wet dog. It's worse or different, kind of musky. Anyway, so knowing that I've at least smelled that in the neighborhood, and we've actually had bear scat in our yard, I know that there's one out there, and I don't know why it would mess with a cat. I'm more concerned about any kind of cougar sightings. Those scare me far more even than a black bear does. Coyotes don't really scare me, except for the fact that I'm worried about them eating my cat. And then the eagles, I know bald eagles are really capable of picking up small animals, but our cat is 13 pounds, so I think she's on the heavier weight size that they would pick up. And I also know that she, like our other cat, is pretty good about ducking underneath things, and that usually keeps birds away, usually. Anyway, so there are just a lot of dangers outside our house where we live, and our current cat does not seem to be quite wise up to all of that. So I'm thinking about trying to train her to be an adventure kitty. We'll see how it goes. And that has nothing to do with my writing life, other than the fact it might be distracting from my writing life, because I'll have to organize some time around that. And because, again, I know that cats train to routine. They don't train to people please. They train to routine. And for instance, our cat knows that our younger daughter gets up at about 4:30 in the morning to go to work. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, she goes to our daughter's room to wake her up and get some early morning cuddle time. And then, of course, that's when she when she escaped out of the house this morning too, because she figured out, daughter was tired. She could escape then. But she knows when we get up and go to bed, and that's when she has a tendency to expect certain amounts of attention, and she's kind of ticked off when she doesn't get it, or when we change our routine. She's a little cranky. So I know that training her is going to take keeping to some kind of routine every day, and I'll try to figure that out, how that's going to work around everything else. So other than that, this week I had a little bit of dizziness, and I have some health issues that sometimes causes that. But I also whacked my head really hard on a cupboard, and so I don't know why that would cause that, but maybe it did. Anyway, it's been an interesting and less than fun week. But it's been, it's been a week, and despite all of that, I've written 3 chapters every single day, and I feel really good about that. They're short chapters. Some people write like 5,000 word chapters, and most of the chapters I'm writing are about 1,000 to 1,200 words. So I've been writing about 3,000 words a day, and that feels really good to me. I feel accomplished when I get those things done, and I can write that in my journal, in my little accomplishment. That one of my journal pages, I turn it into columns, and I have an accomplishment list that I just keep track of what I've accomplished during the day. And that is, for me, a really huge thing for building my own confidence and seeing my successes, because we all know that writing a novel is a marathon, not a sprint. I mean, even the people that write really fast, even the people that can, they can pour out 5,000 to 10,000 words a day, it still takes several days for even the super fast people to write a novel. And I'm kind of a medium like speed typewriter, and a lot of times the faster I write, the more revision I have to do. So I think there's a skill set to writing quickly and knowing how much revision you have to do at the end. But I know where I'm at. and 3,000 words a day is pretty good for me. So I feel really good about the work I've gotten done this week on my writing. And I feel really good about the nice things that have been going on in the writing community. I see a lot of great shout outs from authors for other authors, and I love that. If you're an author and you're giving kudos to other authors, good on you. Thank you. Like it's kind of it's often how I find some of my favorite authors to read is when I see posts from one author talking about them, or an author sharing stuff about other authors. I'm like, So I'll check out the author that they're sharing, but also I'm more likely to read their books. The person who's posting and sharing about other authors, I'm more likely to read their books, because I think this person's a really cool person. I want to know what they write. And so writers, let's lift each other up. One of the things I love about the 20 Books to 50K group on Facebook is it's all about helping each other rise. And I think that is the awesomest thing about the writing community, is when we help each other rise. We are not in a competition, because the reality is that all writers are usually readers. And so when I help someone else, yeah, sure, I hope that they'll give me a pat on the back later too, but it's also, I know that their books, if they do well, I don't know, it's just good for all of us when someone else does well. And we want to grow readership too. And I think the only way we can grow readership is we tell readers, hey, there's these really cool books out there, and you don't have to read mine. You could read someone else's. Some of the authors that I love, just to say, Scott Rankin. I discovered his books during COVID because of another author's posts. And I love all of his books. I've read all of his books now. I got them from the library. I bought them at a used bookstore. I bought them at brand new bookstores. I got his latest book when it came out brand new in hardback. Love Scott Rankin. And by the way, don't write his name the way you pronounce it. His last name is Reingten. And he's a really great young adult and middle grade fantasy author. Highly recommend. I highly recommend Catherine Briggs as a young adult Christian fantasy author. I recommend C.J. Malachi. She's also a great YA dystopian author. there are just so many good authors out there. Patricia Josephine is someone who um, I've known off and on through the blog sphere for years. She made me that knitted hat you may have seen in a previous video. She's brilliant, and she's definitely a secular fantasy author, but her writing is beautiful. So I also recommend checking out Jen Chandler's posts online. She has a short story that's in Hero Lost, which is an anthology that I have a short story in too. That's how I met her, and her online posts are just gorgeous prose. Like, go read her blog, go read her posts. They're beautiful and they're thoughtful, and she's also a huge reader, and so she talks about books that she loves. Again, great writing, and I know, at least I think she's coming out with a book in the next year or two, and I'm excited to see that. I'm looking forward to reading more of her work in fiction as well as the work she does in nonfiction. And there's so many great authors out there. Milo James Fowler is an author who I've followed for years. He's reviewed my books, I reviewed his. He's a sci-fi fantasy author. And just very nice gentleman, at least from what I could tell from online and his emails, and great writer. So again, those are just the writers I'm going to throw out there this week. Oh, and Shanna Dow. I may be saying her name wrong. I'm not sure. It might be Shanna Doe and not Shanna Dow, but she writes brilliant young adult portal fantasy. So again, I could just keep going on and naming author after author after author, but there are some great people out there, and I love the writing community. It's just full of wonderful people, and if you're a writer and you don't have a group yet, or you don't know where to find these people, start tagging your posts with Writers Helping Writers or Writing Life, and start poking around and looking for people who are writers. Go to the Insecure Writers Support Group, go to 20 Books to 50K, look up writing groups on Facebook or online, go to YA Highway. There are so many places that you can find some great people. Oh, I'm going to throw another one out there. C. Lee Mackenzie. So it's C. Lee Mackenzie. She writes great young adult and middle grade fiction, and she has some good Substack posts out there too. Oh my. Anyway, I just keep going. I'm looking over my bookshelf and I'm like, who else could I talk about? Anyway, there's some really cool writers out there. I highly recommend checking out some of the names I mentioned. But partly because these are people that have just been kind to me and encouraging to me, but also because their books are really good. And part of the reason I want to say all of that this week and thank the writing community in general is because when my cat came back and the community around me helped so much, it reminded me of the writing community. So thank you, Gig Harbor community, for helping me find my lost cat, and thank you, writing community, for all your help with my writing life. This is Tammy Martinson and the Truth About Storytelling.